Yo guys, this episode of Human Beings that was also shot in person had some unfortunate technical issues. The audio is great, thankfully, but the video file turned out completely corrupted, which would always be unfortunate, of course, but especially since Henrik here is a very jacked guy. He was sitting by my kitchen table looking all shredded. So just to give you some visual representation of Henrik, I've ripped some reels from his Instagram and we'll roll for the first few 10 minutes or so of this podcast. But anyway, guys, sorry about that. Enjoy this episode. It's great, honestly. Yo, guys. Theo here, Uncommon Sense. Welcome to another episode of Human Beings, the podcast where we're very interested in life and all such things. But also people, not just who they are today, but where they come from, how they ended up where they are today. And so today, I'm joined by fellow Swede, a brother of mine, Henrik Valis. And just before I introduce him more, yes, we're speaking English again, which is a little silly, but it's a courtesy for the following, of course. But Henrik has also expressed to me that he wants to explore English in his content a bit more. So again, we're practicing. Well, Henrik is he's a personal trainer, he's a coach, a philosopher, a teacher, and a crossfitter, and an inliner. Those are the titles I prepared here. But hello, Henrik, nice to have you here.
Cheers, bro. Thanks for having me.
So is there anything you'd like to add to those little titles there?
Well, I think they're surface level fair assessments.
Yeah.
I guess I could call myself a student of life who just happens to be a creative artist from the get-go. I like to use the explanation that in school I excelled in languages, physical education, and the arts. Mm. And somehow I have blended those three things into personality and a professional career. Mm. So yes, I am at heart a meathead who loves to lift, but without the creative physical expression, be it rollerblading, be it through thoughts, be it through languages, I am not very whole as a person. So I need the creative outlet, regardless of them being, crossfitting, muscle-upping, handstand walking, journaling, writing, grading Spanish tests, or if it's dancing on roller skates or tricking on inline skates. Mm. That pretty much sums it up.
Okay. You know, there's just one thing that stuck out to me there. I think you said I'm not very whole as a person. Did you say that?
Correct.
And so can you just explain that a little bit to me?
Well, I think it's fairly shallow. I think people have this tendency to want to look at things binary. I might say, yeah, I snowboard. And people come back to me, oh, so you're a snowboarder. No, I am a human being who likes to snowboard. Mm. Oh yeah, I spent 3 seasons in Åre in the north of Sweden. Mm. Oh, so then you're a season-based snowboarder. Mm. I'm a human being who just happened to be in Åre those 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a fine distinction between, people wanting to almost anxiously define themselves by what the Swedish would be epithet, or like some title to it. Mm. Yes, I have been doing my training primarily out of CrossFit gyms. Mm. Does that make me a CrossFitter? Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I think it's a great point you're making. And actually, when I talked to my cousin Diana last time, she also, when I just gave her some she's a mother of this many and she's a soul worker because she does something that's called soul work. But she also emphasized that, well, most of all, I'm just me, Diana. And yeah, I am also a mother and da. So I think you're making a good point. But sometimes it's also like, let's say, for instance, I'm a natural bodybuilder. Technically, well, that's something I do. It's definitely a goal I have. However, it's not something I hold on so strongly, I need to see myself as a natural bodybuilder. It's more just a convenient way to describe some things I'm into, So I think it's funny. Like, it depends on who. Like, in this case, I'm like, okay, I get it, Henrik, but can you just tell people the things you do?
Gotcha. And if that was a question, what I do?
Yeah, let's say that a little bit before we dig into some other things and go back to the beginning as well. But tell us a little bit what you're about today.
Absolutely. So I have parallel tracks. You can absolutely say I am a crossfitter as it relates to life with the constant variance aspect of CrossFit training. I am a personal trainer since the age of 19.
And how old are you today?
I'm turning 38.
Half your life.
Pretty much, yeah. But, you know, as a personal trainer, you're not really that valuable to people before I could argue the age of 30 because your life experiences just aren't up to par with life's demands on you. But yes, started lifting weights at age 15. Age 19, I did my personal training school here in Stockholm, Sweden. Age 23, I decided to become a language teacher. So since then, I have been combining two careers, one in the fitness space and one in the classroom. So I teach Spanish Monday through Thursday. I do personal training mornings, evenings, and weekends. And I run my own business. I have my own podcast.
Yeah.
And since a few months ago, I think I'm actually Sweden's best paid roller skater.
Oh, wow.
Which is sort of a interesting thing, because my really first dream, like when I knew I had ambition, was that I was 12 years old and I want to be a professional rollerblader. Didn't happen. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't dedicated enough. But I somehow managed to sell nightclubs and restaurants on the idea that I could be a roller skating waiter. And when I combine, you know, exhibitionism with movement expression via dancing, roller skating, and you know, add a little bit of flair and muscles to it. It's a cool gimmick. So yes, Fridays and Saturday evenings and nights, I'm strapping on roller skates and dancing and waiting tables for people's amusement.
That sounds great. You know, I could learn something from you. I think, you know, I want to get into dancing. Like right now, you know, I have a musical background, so I can move to music. I have the rhythm, and of course I have trained, so I'm strong and quite flexible, but I'm still kind of clumsy. It's like certain movements I can get right, but I'd like to get better at that. But so it's a bit of a practice I have to sometimes. It's also a practice in vulnerability, you know, to film myself when I just dance for fun. Not great, unrefined dancing like that, and post it and show people. But I'm also quite good at ice skating. I've done a lot of those sports as a kid, and I've just been thinking like, man, I should get into like roller skating. So you gotta help me out with that soon. But before we get more into that, we start talking so much immediately. But I've actually prepared a little meal for us here so that we are filled with good nutrition throughout this podcast here.
Love it.
Yes. So I prepared some pieces of raw liver. There you go. And we have a raw egg yolk that I also prepared with some salt on it for a complete nutrient profile here. Okay, I'm just afraid that I'm gonna...
Will I get yoked eating egg yolks?
I think so. You become what you eat, right? So eat yolks, you get yoked. But yeah, you pick a piece here.
Cheers, bro. With my bare hands?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get some paper. I do have some.
It's okay, man.
Yeah. Okay. But let's start. Cheers. Skål.
Skål.
And so, maybe, Henrik, you can tell people why we do this. Apart from it being tasty and nutritious.
It's really good, actually.
Yeah.
Can I have another one directly?
Yeah, if you want to. We started with a small one, so...
I think people must develop agency over their own health. I mean, yes, you and I listen to science, but sometimes I can't wait for science to come up with everything. And I would love for people to have some sort of self-sovereignty as it relates to exploring health, training, nutrition practices that might work for them. I mean, I don't care if you call it the 5-2 diet, carnivore, or even veganism. Whatever makes you do actions and steps consciously, purposefully towards something. It can be liver for some. It can be, you just happen to subscribe to whatever principle that helps you guide yourself in the grocery store. To me, it doesn't have to be liver, but this tastes awesome.
Yeah. It's tasty, nutritious, and delicious, as they say. So you're serious about taking another piece? Okay, well,
Yeah, why not?
he took the biggest one too.
The thing is, moderation doesn't come naturally to me.
And we're going to get into that as well. But okay, I'll indulge since you're here.
Indulge.
It's a celebration. Did you see I tried to do the Opti-Holm thing there, that I chewed longer than I had to? Most people, they try to eat liver as fast as possible. And he told me when I met him that therefore he started doing the opposite way. How long can I keep this in my mouth? We don't have to now, because we're going to talk.
I have this thing which sort of explains me being in shape year round. And it also explains why I'm not naturally gifted as a strength athlete. I have something called GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease.
Okay.
Meaning things that come down in my mouth tends to come up through my mouth again. So I'm a crappy eater, volume-wise. And I generally need to chew my food. If I swallow something, it will revolt back up as acid.
Well, that explains why you're so shredded then.
I have a hard time eating volume-wise. The amount of food that was needed for me to be a top-tier crossfitter or powerlifter, it just wasn't sustainable. When I was at my strongest, my health markers were the worst. So I tend to thrive more in the using fitness and training as a method for being a better human as opposed to just being a better athlete. So chewing your food is a healthy thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to consume, or if you need to consume 5,000 plus calories a day, you can't be chewing all the time, man.
Is that how high it is for you? 5K?
I would say so. In a tough training block, absolutely.
Because I know you just move quite a bit. Apart from being a long and big guy, you move quite a bit also, I guess. So you're even apart from your resting metabolic rate probably being quite high, you also expend usually quite a bit on top of that, right?
Yes, correcto.
You want to get to the shot? We got to have some fat too. That's the thing with the liver, that there are many vitamins.
One shot?
Yeah. Yeah, but there are many vitamins. The liver is nature's multivitamin, right? But some is very lean, the liver. So you want to get some fat to be able to absorb.
Well, this is only egg yolk with salt.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, these eggs, I've been telling the guys so many times how happy, fewer things. I'm not very into cooking, but I'm very into good nutrition. So that I've gotten a hold of these eggs, and I told you, my client who goes away gets them directly from the farmer, and they're outside and eating what they're supposed to. So these eggs, they are apart from just being higher quality, they do taste great in comparison. But so I do have some coffee here.
Oh, really?
Yes, and as a token of our broship, you're gonna get the Solar Night mug for yourself. I know that you hyped me up as a Solar Knight when I went on your podcast. Do you know that how tough that was for me? That I came up with that concept, the Solar Knight, when I was feeling great, and so I talked about it a lot. Then doesn't matter what, but I started feeling a lot worse in my life, and I felt very depressed and withdrawn, And when people were like, "Oh, the Solar Knight," I felt this shame because I felt like I cannot live up to that now. And later, I learned that, sometimes the Solar Night need to be the Lunar Night as well. Yes. That's when he retreats into the cave to work on himself, find the light again, so he can come out and shine his brightest again. I'm sure you can relate to that, Henrik.
I mean, yes, I think it's a very good point. And I had a terrific, thank you, sir.
Strong.
I had a terrific realization of what works for me. I have this, my spirit sometimes goes into rebellion mode whenever people use the word balance.
Okay.
I think the general population of common sedentary Swedes who go nowhere just love to use the word balance. What about balance? Well, you can't always match ambition with balance. Maybe balance doesn't mean being perfectly calibrated in the middle. I've come to understand for me that balance lies more in having as much constructive fun I can in one end of the spectrum and again in the other. So what if I don't own the electric bike? What if I own a super fast Italian road bike, a Pinarello, carbon fiber, very fast, but very vulnerable. You can't do anything with it downtown, but on a countryside road, it's the best. And what if the other bike I owned is a beach cruiser? Incredibly slow, very unpractical. Instead of me just getting, the convenient option. I find that myself, I'm not meant to be the prime minister. But if I can be the politician doing the opposition, coming with, hey, you need to think about this from this far out angle or from this far out angle. I think that's a maybe better take on balance for some people. Don't call on ambitious people or people who feel ambition to be perfectly calibrated, balanced in the middle. It's hurtful for the soul.
Yeah. You're saying it's very interesting to me because I talk about balance like all the time almost. But to me, I'm just talking about the ratio of something in relation to something else. It doesn't mean like, be in the middle, be average. It's not that, because a lot of people that would say, you talk about the common average Swedish person talking about balance. It's more, they're just talking about some kind of comfort or I don't know. To me, that's not like balance. I think about balance like I want to train hard and a lot, just like you, but I cannot. There's an end to how much. I have to balance it up with good nutrition and sleep and just relaxing too, right? But it doesn't mean that I train too much right now, just because I train a lot more than most people. And then the other thing you said, I just think, because I recognize something in what you said that I've been feeling lately, that I like to stand up for people that aren't part of the norm in one way or another, because you get criticized easily then. And I think individuals like you, we often, the way I see it, high-performing individuals in one way or another, there's going to be all these aspects. There's like, well, you're so far ahead of a lot of people. You're so much better in this, and this. Sometimes maybe the other side of the coin from that is that you might have some trait that isn't quite as good and that, but to me it's also kind of like, well, let the excellent person be excellent and have some flaws around it a little bit. It's like, I don't know that I managed to describe this the best I want to right now, but if you are ambitious, things aren't going to be perfectly balanced and symmetrical and nice like that, is kind of what I mean. That in the pursuit of something more, when you are ambitious, you might have to take a little hits or whatever. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Well, there's the great, we're going to have to look up the source, but are you familiar with the Man in the Arena poem?
No.
I think it was like a speech or something that, it is way easier to be on the sidelines and criticizing as opposed to being the man in the arena.
I just have to say, because I say that, like pretty much exactly that. Like, it's very easy to have a lot of opinions from the sidelines about what's going on in the race that you are not participating in. You're just looking.
You probably stole that inadvertently from It's like some old speech by American president or something.
But do you know what I find too? That people, deep thinking people, very often, I think that's very cool too. Often I see people kind of draw the same conclusion or see the same metaphor or whatever, because some things are just kind of true. Some phenomenons just are going on, So, when I read, for instance, like old Stoic quotes or something, I'm just like, well, I kind of thought that already, just in different words. So,
and I think it's very interesting. I mean, absolutely, there are generalizable truths, one might say. I've been in the fitness space for 2 decades, and I sometimes make new acquaintances in the business from other trainers, and it's kind of funny. We have been training at different gyms, different cities, through different eras, and we've come to similar conclusions. Sleds are great. Windmills and Turkish get-ups are great for shoulder health, as are skin the cats. You can't go wrong with, whatever, unilateral training and whatever truth, like you can't go wrong with more horizontal pulling. And people, I never spoke with this guy. He was a guy who was experimental as well as listening to the science, and we came up with the same conclusions.
Yeah. And to me, it's kind of like, I think you and I, for instance, have a different approach to our training. But I'm sure that if you and I started discussing in detail things about training, we'd be like, because I see that with a lot of people that I might have different goals. So I go and focus on different things, but we've kind of found out the same things in the pursuit, But yeah, I just want to go back to, it's great. We got into a lot of fun stuff, and I just want to go back and hear a little bit about like little Henrik. I try to always get that part in, just because to me, I guess I see myself a bit as a alchemist with myself, like building an individual. So I'm very interested in other individuals, but also like, because the way I see it, or that's how it is, it's like there are certain building blocks of you that your genes, that's where you started, that's what you're given. But then it's the environment. What were these genes exposed to, basically? So just however deep you want to in that, but tell us like how you grew up, like your kind of family situation, were both parents around, that kind of thing. If there's anything that sort of sticks out from your childhood that you'd like to share.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, obviously this question can be answered in the small, medium, large, XL, but I'll do my best to try and somehow create a cohesive recount of, whatever environmental factors made me. But I can say that, being the youngest of 5 siblings, son of academics who were to some degree class conscious and wanted me to learn more about the fine arts and the good languages, I was provided a blueprint that was, I guess, prone to ambition, and you wanted to make something of yourself. However, I always felt pop culture to be more of an allure than, the predetermined path of pursuing engineering or medicine. I was always hoping that my answers lie in, WWE wrestling or Hollywood or lifting or something, snowboarding. Everything I could dream of as a kid, it was like, other things. I genuinely hoped until I was like 10 years old that, I'm pretty sure Optimus Prime and Transformers are gonna come and take me and have me join them as Cybertron and some other more fun adventure than this Earth thing. So I was always a dreamer, I suppose. Parents got divorced. My dad was not a faithful man, and I guess I was exposed to how my male assertiveness could, I wouldn't say toxic, but I mean how a man going after what he wanted was not always the best thing for the greater good. So I was raised by my mom. Assertiveness didn't come easy for me, not at all. Dad passed when I was 15. Turned to video games. Could not stop playing until I was, I guess, 17, and I just decided to go cold turkey on video games.
What did you play then?
I played Counter-Strike primarily.
Nice.
And I just switched that to straight up fitness and strength training. Sort of found myself in the gym, had my, teenage depression post dad's passing, and started straightening out my back, did my military service, grew in the role of being a good soldier, good amigo, good student, good son, good citizen, and always kept training. From the army days, I sort of had my Peter Pan years, one might say, because there was no dad around. I had very few masculine role models, or there was no living up to any ideal. So I could just roam around, going with the flow, snowboarding, it feels good. Let's be an exchange student, just feels good. There was zero momentum for me to, taking responsibility, I guess. So assertiveness definitely was something I had to come by later in life.
That's interesting, because you do not come off as someone who's not assertive to me.
I mean, I always went after what I want, but I think the Peter Pan thing, or just me lacking out in some areas, absolutely played a part. I mean, had Dad lived, I don't know if I would be such a peacocking, freedom-loving hippie.
You mean now? Yeah.
No, absolutely. But I always had my strength training in my disciplined way of living, and I somehow managed to connect those two parts, like the disciplined go-getter with the freedom-loving hippie. Still a snowboarder at heart, still a rollerblader, although with this sense of order, structure, discipline. And since my late 20s, I combined teaching with working at a gym. And somewhere along those years too, I think many dreams came to die, others came to live. I wouldn't say it was comfort guiding me, but absolutely. I could hear the voices of my parents, conservative parents, playing it safe. Henrik, you can't do this, you can't do that. And me maybe losing touch with whatever weirder, more hidden parts of my psychology and intuition, heart that were there. And having a process, in my later adult years to, dig deeper and, find my own alchemy, and having the guts to be explorative in the process, because, I cannot theorize about life anymore. I can think about it, but thinking and acting are often two different processes. And, paralysis by analysis, fear, people's, peers, parents, well-meaning care for you can somehow convert into resistance towards you pursuing a higher calling or another path. And so I guess here I am, definitely a late bloomer, definitely a physical guy, and still practicing, hopefully. I'm a very flawed human being, but I try to set one foot in front of the other, and get a little better each day.
Yeah. You don't look flawed to me, man.
I have some things going for me, but because you said you wanted to know about little Henrik.
Yeah, that's true.
And the whole duality of little Henrik and big Henrik.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure little Theo and big Theo.
Oh yes.
They have a relationship there somewhere.
Oh, definitely. It's like I love when I hear that this is again because little Theo and big Theo. That's not a concept I would have picked up from anyone else. That's like all me. Now you're talking about little Henrik and big Henrik. So you see what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was it you said that I wanted to? Yeah. I guess I just wanted to. I hear you talk about the process, kind of, and I think it's interesting because I approach life in a very similar way. That you said that I'm done thinking or something like not done thinking.
Think and act, but not at the same time.
Yeah, but to me the thing is, I guess for me, thinking is great and theory can be great, but there has to be a balance between theory and practice. And I guess I find that too many people in general, or even the society we live in now, is very focused on theory and information about things. And I find that there's a lot of people that this is not exactly what you were talking about, but it's related. That a lot of people, they think they know a lot about things because they've read and listened and heard a bunch of things. But I find that the people that I think know the most about something, in the end, it's the people that have done the most about it, and at the same time thought and read and talked about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me this 10 years ago, when life was more practical, I could say that theory is very much needed. I know I was super inspired by all the research. I was on PubMed all the time to learn what were the best training methods for athletes, right? But these days, when theory is everywhere, input is everywhere, I can absolutely say that the information flow relative to how practical people are is way off. And practical knowledge is more important than ever. Like we're battling depression, we're battling sedentary comfort leading to sickness. And the antidote is physical, my man.
Yes.
It's out there.
Yes, 100%. And so I want to get into that, actually, because that's something I know I wanted to talk to you about today. But I guess something I just wanted to say that I could have come to earlier, but we just went in a direction I liked. But I guess I want to explain something about Henrik, because this podcast is about human beings, and it's about me too, as a human being. And Henrik, I guess to me, I'll just explain a little bit about our relationship now, is that it's not that we know each other super well. We haven't seen each other that many times, but we have seen each other and we've been in touch. And to me, you're the kind of person where it's like, I can tell so quickly upon meeting you, it's like, okay, like so many important aspects are in place for someone that I would want to associate with, be like friends with, really, And I just think something is kind of interesting with that when you've gone through life as a process and figured certain things out about you and what people you want to surround yourself with, and that it's like some people, it's like you just know not them entirely, but so much of them immediately, because you can just say, oh, we're the same in these ways. Oh, good, this is going to work well. I know, for instance, that if I really needed to talk about something difficult, I'm sure Henrik would be a great guy to talk with, and I would hope that you feel the same. Yeah, but I think that's just kind of cool as a concept. I've thought about it, like even our mutual friend that maybe we can talk a bit about later, about Andreas Optiholm. It was the same thing that I just knew that when we chatted, it's like we're going to get along great. We're like good friends before even being friends, if you see what I mean. To me, that's just kind of interesting. That you can come to a point in life where you just know so well what you're looking for in other people that when you see them, it's like, okay, this is a thing now, pretty much.
Well, I think that comes from people trusting themselves, knowing themselves, and trusting whatever soup life will be, not anxiously hoping for it being other things. I know that whenever I talk with people who are too politically correct, it does not feel like I'm talking to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can say, we've had different jobs, and at any workplace there's a culture, and depending on what sort of leadership there is right there, you have a feeling, it feels like you've been working there for a long time, even if you've just been there for 1 or 2 weeks, because of how open the culture is, how secure the workplace is in communicating and allowing for, diversity. And diversity is not the PC, political correct term for, we're very diverse here, as long as you're in this realm. So I think that whenever people dare speak up their minds, and can do so, if you're around people who have cultivated the pause between stimulus and response, and don't just succumb victims to everything being about them, about how misogynist, insert whatever popular word of today, and you can actually have discussions and arrive at deeper and deeper levels through trying to understand first before you cast judgments. Being able to analyze things on multiple levels all at once. Being safe and secure to listen before having your own unchecked attachment issues decide the future of the conversation. But it's hard. I feel like we're having these conversations because the emotional generation, maybe even the feminization of modern society, has moved the needle to us not being able to have these conversations. It's like whenever we meet who are more, rooted, can stand firm, can discuss uncomfortable topics. I'm pretty sure we create a rapport and understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's also what I'm looking for in this podcast, is more just like real, genuine conversation. Because you talked about some politically correct people, you almost don't feel as if you're talking to them. And there are many other things that isn't necessarily political correctness, but there's a lot of just surface, I think, now. And it's like I love social media on one hand, but on one hand, there's a lot of bad that comes with it. And I think one thing is, of course, the focus on the surface like that. But what I find that people like with my content, my approach just to how I speak about things, and also the few podcast episodes I've had so far, is this just real, true, authentic conversation, where it's like, I'm sure you and I, if we really dig into it, we can find a lot of things that we disagree about, like opinions that aren't quite the same or something. But that's what I mean, kind of that's what I meant before, that I can see that we have enough similarities that I just don't see anything ever being like, okay, this I just found out about Henrik, it's like a deal breaker. I don't want anything to do with him anymore.
Do you have any deal breakers? Because I have one deal breaker.
Tell me about that. Right now, I'm just mad that they're still going at it on a Saturday above me with this bathroom they're doing. It's like, let's go on a bit, but if I had to, I'd go up and tell them you gotta stop now. It's gotta stop sometime, oh my God. That's a parenthesis. But sorry, go on, Henrik. Tell me about your deal breaker.
I think people renovating their homes, some do it because they love it. Others do it because they don't yet have a physical practice.
It's been a month. It's been a month every day. I thought I was spared on weekends, but anyway.
My deal breaker.
Yeah.
I would be tolerant about anyone and everything, but as soon as I hear the police or people villainizing the police force, I'm out.
Okay. F the police. Why that one specifically? Not that I say that I disagree, but I just...
I think it's the most uninsightful thing a person can do. To regard the ultimate line of defense for us as citizens to demonize them.
Okay. I haven't thought too much about it. I don't know what I think about the police, really. I haven't thought so much about that in a long time. But I guess, yeah, I guess when I just think about it, if someone says F the police, my instinct is not like, oh yeah, that's my people right there. Deal breakers, I don't know. Like a thing like that. I think I can't come up with something right now. But what I wanted to get back to, because well, I put like training as medicine almost, but I've seen you a lot in your Instagram and stuff lately. I've just the way you've talked about the training has been a little bit like the training duty is paid. Now I feel good until this time, kind of thing. So please just get into your thoughts about all of that. I guess the way what training is for you and how you look at training. And yeah.
Training for me is everything from like self-realization, such as me being both the marble and sculptor, and I can be that via training, to training being my anti-Alzheimer's disease, via functional training, kettlebell flows. That's just me avoiding elderly disease such as Alzheimer's. It could also be anti-depression medicine, me postponing feeling sorry for myself and instead feeling self-respect and accomplishment and getting to live with my higher ideals for one more day. It can also be me preferring to have a certain look, a certain virility, lifestyle. I definitely need to have training in order to belong in fitness environments, which is generally where people have better health markers, higher energy, express more of themselves physically, sexually, even intellectually, I would say, because we can tap into, higher source of us. Training is everything, man. I say that everything starts in the gym, and that, of course, depends on who you are. But for me, it does. We're so overly theoretical, and I find that depression hits us the hardest when we're indoors, not moving, consuming for extended periods of time. And if I just find the antithesis to that, which would preferably outdoors, summertime, sweating hard, pulling heavy deadlifts, engaging in the fight or flight caveman style. That's a complete antithesis to what we have created that makes us, depressed, unhealthy, fat.
Yeah.
So training, it's there. Like I say the training is both my science and my ideology. Everyone knows from a science standpoint that we need training for the endorphin release. Or, government even pays us money in Sweden, the friskvårdsbidrag, like healthcare additions to your salary. Because we, according to science, need training. And also, from science, we know that, progressive overload can create adaptation in your body and make you more resilient or better conditioned, better endurance. From an ideological perspective, you cannot convince me that progressive overload does not work and or could not be applied to any and all things in life. Oh, you have had bouts of anxiety, Theodor. What about if we apply progressive overload and just expose you to, saying hi to a neighbor? I don't know, petting your neighbor's cat. And then next day, maybe you greet the neighbor's neighbor. I don't know. That's progressive overload. Same as in the gym. Oh, my back hurts from squatting. Oh, how much did you squat? 100 kilos. Did 40 kgs hurt? No. How about we build capacity at 40 kilos? And maybe next week we do 42.5 kilos. you cannot convince me, ideologically or scientifically, that training is not the best thing we have.
Yeah. Yeah, I obviously agree with like everything you said. That's another title I wanted to, I see you as a fellow philosophysiquer. How you're trying, when you're trying to put those two together, right? Because, well, first of all, I did that video recently, pretty much I call the video "Philosophy Gets You Jacked" or something. But the point was that the philosophy it cannot just be a theory, nice, smart-sounding reasonings and words. It has to be put into practice, right? The philosophy has to be something you do too, not just words, right? But I do love, you definitely do the way I do, like that this process orientation, like this approach to life in general, but that we have that process, a lot of it was built like in the gym, where it's quite straightforward with like the progressive overload. Most of the time, that just means adding more weight to what you do or more reps. But there are, of course, other ways to progress in the gym. But the point is that it's quite like clear and quantifiable like that. But you can then just see the concepts from how you improve with your training in the gym and apply them to other processes, other areas in your life. And yeah, it's just quite clear that you, just like me, I make these analogies, comparisons to physical training all the time when I talk about other things.
And I just think for, any one person living in a westernized society, that the gym is perhaps our best teacher of how we can do it. Like, it's where people learn that, the results you get from training, you have to look at the accumulative effect of everything you do. And you learn that, obviously, resistance training is hard. It's in the name. It's called resistance training because you work with resistance.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, it works.
Yeah.
You will get a little bit more confident every time. And, you have to learn to use more variables, such as what you said, weight on the bar and or reps. After a while, there's going to have to be a sophistication of the stimuli and an alchemy of you as a practitioner in the specific sense on the gym floor, but also on the outside factors that very much dictates what happens in there. I mean, you can only increase training volume by so much. After a while, there has to be improved recovery principles, nutrition strategies, life stress, etc.
100%. I notice it so much now when I'm bulking and training more for direct progress, like the sleep, how much it does. And I prioritize sleep a lot. Like, then we can talk about that too, like early mornings, basically. But I don't know why I started thinking about this even, but it's just lately. I've chosen to, if I wake up like very early, like 3 or something.
That's early. You're the earliest bird I know, man.
Yeah, but it's not that, I usually go up at like 5 these days now. But no, I guess I just... when I try to improve my regimen lately, like I'm doing quite well with the training already. And it's more like if I want the progress to be better, it's more about other things than the training, pretty much. But I just wanted to ask you, how much of a bodybuilder are you? Or have you been? I'm sure your priorities have been a little different at different times too. Because to me, that you said it, that I always say, the marbler and the sculpture, that's actually from an old video that went viral, that a lot of my recent growth of the channel came from. That's one thing that many people have brought up that I apparently said in that video. I still haven't watched it, that old video, because I cringe when I think of it. It's not that bad, really. But the point was that I said that I treat myself as my own sculpture too. And a lot of people like that. So yeah, talk a little bit about you as a bodybuilder or someone who bodybuilds.
Absolutely. So I bought into bodybuilding very early. I was 15, and bear in mind, I was 15 in the year of 2001. That's when I started lifting. I was in year 9. And back then, the only physical practice or application of strengthening that was known to the public was bodybuilding. So even if you were more of a crossfitter back then. CrossFit did not exist really. It was not yet popularized. So many of the best physical practitioners just went to bodybuilding. And, I saw Jean-Claude Van Damme when I was 14, doing roundhouse kicks with abs and biceps. And I was like, I want that. And I saw Arnold firing machine guns with huge arms and pecs. Like, I want that. And absolutely, for me, it started with wanting a certain aesthetic look because I was definitely little Henrik. Late into puberty, never strong. But then I think somehow around the age of 20, my relationship to bodybuilding changed was when I realized that I could pinpoint any weakness through bodybuilding. Bodybuilding for me just became the name to, you know what? I had my shoulders dislocated through snowboarding. If I bodybuild and target certain functions or areas surrounding the shoulder, I could bodybuild my way back into snowboarding. It's called building up your body, bodybuilding. Regardless of you subscribing to a certain aesthetic ideal. So yes, I have been a bodybuilder from the get-go, trying to go after a certain aesthetic. Nobody ever said, God, I wish I was a bit puffier in my wedding photo.
Yeah, a little bit fatter, a little bit softer.
And if you look at the gods made themselves in our image, Poseidon could have chosen not to have strong glutes or big calves or solid delts. But he had a thick physique. Are
those specifically Poseidon's strong points in his physique?
I know he has Poseidon statue in Gothenburg. He has a very small penis.
Okay.
But absolutely, glutes and legs. I would say that any well-built masculine physique always should have a better built lower body than upper body. Look at sports. Sports are, 80% lower body. So you should always have a bottom heavy physique for sure. In my case, I treasured beauty and I thought that symmetry was very important. I got to learn about Steve Reeves, that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
He was talking about the proportions, and if a male physique had the 1-to-1-to-1 relationship between neck, biceps, and calves, there should be harmony to the male physique.
Harmony?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look at Leonardo da Vinci's The Vitruvian Man, who stands with his arms and legs out, that's some sort of, avatar for symmetry and proportion. Same goes for a male muscular physique. You see that when people do steroids at a young age, the growth receptors in the neck are very big, like maybe their necks grow out of proportion with upper arms and or calves, right?
Okay.
And you see a kid who does way more upper body training than lower body training, you will see it.
Yeah.
If their legs are skinny. And just, it can take away the whole look.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, I noticed that just aesthetics was never enough. I cared too much for my athletic ability. And I knew that my ability to be symmetrical was hinging on me actually being athletic.
Yeah. So
it would be reverse engineering to go too deep into aesthetics first. And so 5 years prior to the term functional bodybuilding being coined, I was doing functional bodybuilding. I was always looking at, different planes of movement, choosing exercises that had a carryover. I would always do my bodybuilding for, lateral delts, but maybe back in the day I did them on a Pilates ball. So I get more core engagement because that was function, I assumed.
Yeah.
Of course, I did my
one-legged booster ball lateral raise.
Maybe not a full retard, but let's say, for example, chest building.
Yeah.
I thought of chest days as a thing back in the day. So maybe I did bench press, incline press, but then I love plyometrical jumping push-ups and or working with resistance bands to have some sort of athletic feel to my training because I wanted to feel like an athlete. I was way more inspired by NFL strength and conditioning because those guys, they looked like bodybuilders, but they could sprint, they could jump, they could throw, they could tackle, they could fight. So that narrative appealed to me way more than just being a sculpture in that sense. I just think that for many people, that was what happened with bodybuilding back in the day, that it was too much of an overt masculine display of beauty. It just became too much for men to walk with Speedos onto a stage to look good overtly. However, when presented in the formula of CrossFit, you have guys who look like bodybuilders, but they compete in handstand walking, power cleaning, and running. And while doing so, they just happen to have that perfect look. And that caught my eye so hard. That was like 15 years ago. Like, yeah, man, I cannot subscribe to only aesthetics. Like, I'm an athlete. I want to be an athlete. I want to be strong. And here I was, having done all these years at a gym. And I wasn't having a sport anymore. But I had spent years doing pull-ups, running, and power cleans. Like, hey, we want you in CrossFit, bro. Like, okay. So, yeah, in my CrossFit group, I'm the bodybuilding guy. In the bodybuilding group, yeah, I'm the guy who has too much of a active lifestyle for just want to do straight up curls. I mean, the difference between you and I is I have subscribed to too little set rest. That maybe I have cut my gains short because I like maybe to do volume training with the limited rest to feel like I'm an athlete, to feel alive. Whereas you have patiently waited for your pulse to go down so you can have high RPE quality sets. You're a strong man, Theo, like twice strong as I am, especially upper body.
I don't know.
Whereas I have, maybe been more of a cortisol junkie and wanting to feel what it's like to have athletic power. And that includes me breathing heavily. Like one of the coolest things to look at, I would say from athletic bodybuilding perspective, is not just to have a guy standing still, flexing his abs on stage, but rather, the thick trunks and abs on a CrossFit athlete, CrossFit Games, when they're resting and recovering between intervals and just see these huge abs, like, breathing, expanding, like looking into the horizon, God, I wish I got another minute's rest. That's aesthetics. From the athletic standpoint.
Yeah, I love that. Like, there are many things I wanted to jump in at, but I also really like listening to you about all of that. Like, to me, bodybuilding shines when it is more of a holistic approach. Even, of course, when I talk about what I do as holistic bodybuilding, I kind of also mean things that are completely not related to training, like even working on person building, But if we think about the actual training part and bodybuilding, I find it so, I've never, since I got into it now as an adult, I've never understood the person that's really just about the bodybuilding. It's like whatever exercise, whatever machine that's most convenient, I will just blow my biceps up. That's what I'm into, I don't care about eating like a good diet as long as my macros are there so I get lean enough. To me, it's like even more so when you bring steroids and stuff into it, But it's a bit of a perverted version of what bodybuilding should be to me, because I think having aesthetic goals, also looking at yourself as this sculpture and maybe have like, I want bigger arms, like purely thinking from that perspective, yes. But for me, for instance, with the lower body, as you talked about, I've dealt with some hip problems that are a lot better now, but I also recently found out that, even my front squat is a little bit more hip dominant than I thought. And I've known for a long time that if I just want to blow up my quads more, I can do some kind of leg press or something, especially with like weightlifting shoes. And I can just push a lot of weight in this leg press machine. But the leg press, I've joked about it sometimes. Like, it's fine. It's a fine exercise for some people. But to me, it's just like, well, I don't care that I could get bigger legs that I want through that, because that just does not match what I'm looking for with my practice holistically. Like, I want my big, strong legs to be not just like, oh, aesthetic big legs. I want it to be an expression of a certain athletic ability too. So while I don't do the same training as you, not this high tempo and probably not as much volume and that, it's a bit, I want to have certain skills. Like, I want to build legs specifically, for instance, through like squats that are really deep and that kind of thing. I don't care if the leg press would give me better results. It's a bit the same with the upper body. I think with some things on the upper body, I tend to get a bit more like technical bodybuilder. But for instance, weighted chin-ups and ring push-ups and stuff, it speaks to me a bit more really than just, I don't know, some pull-down and a bench press. Bench presses are fine. It can all have a place. But the point, I guess, is that you know, I think bodybuilding really shines when it's not just the aesthetics. But that's the other thing. I think why I like to call it bodybuilding and bring that to people is that some people have almost gone too far in another direction. It's like, no, I don't care about aesthetics at all. I don't care about my looks at all. I just want to be strong and healthy, as if there's something like dirty about that. And I'm kind of like, can we just have balance again here? Can we be like, you know, I don't deny that the way I look, my aesthetics is related to my physical health and ability. Can we just embrace that? And not make it all about looks, but not pretend as if, no looks at all either. And by the way, I'll finish this by saying that I find that the people that have to point out the most that they wouldn't train for looks or they are secretly the people that care the most about the looks. And funny for me, I guess I just want to, the way I came into my training philosophy and bodybuilding is when I was younger. As a kid, when I tried to live, it was just about looking good, for girls mainly. I think the lucky part for me is, you know, my background with the panic attacks and that I really just started with training and eating better purely to take care of myself. Notice that, I, as a side effect almost, I get these aesthetic results that I always wanted when I was younger. So I've been able to have fun and embrace that without like it has ever taken over. In that sense. So, you know, I think this is what I think is cool sometimes when, I guess it's this thing that you and I, we train in slightly different ways. We have different things we want to focus on and that, but somehow there's something extremely similar with what we do still, right?
Absolutely. I mean, regardless of why you got into it in the first place or why you get into it, like the end results are very, very similar. And that's, you know, if there's one speech that I love giving, it's what happens at our CrossFit gyms. When we do not, at least in our marketing, say that it's about certain aesthetic ideal, we learn after a few years, though, that people just want to look good naked and feel attractive. But they say, yeah, we want to do keeping pull. I want to do 5 pull-ups. I want to deadlift 1.5 times body weight. However, the true magic that happens at these micro gyms, where it's focused on training, it's focused on social relationships, meaning people train with no headphones, actually learn each other's names. There are no mirrors because we focus on movement, and your body must possess these skills regardless of you having access to visual feedback from a mirror. So when these things happen and normal people get off their couches because they want to practice power cleans and they want to do a 2K row time trial with their friends and go look up voluntary hardship together, you know, their bodies transform and they look great. But just as a byproduct of them focusing on other things than just the looks. If you look at female physiques at a CrossFit gym, woof, do they look good? Woof, are they fit?
I mean, I love all fitness girls, though.
Maybe so do I, but let's say girls come into CrossFit and Olympic lifting, squat routines with more motor skills and more flexibility from just stretching and or taking choreography through dancing and whatever, and learn to move beautifully and can apply progressive overload over time, consistency in barbell lifts and some gymnastic pulling and pushing, and get the conditioning via metcons or running, whatever. Like their physiques transform. I don't see that happening. My problem today is CrossFit and the functional fitness space has changed how normal global gyms are built these days. Most new gyms come with the cages and the rigs and the powerlifting platforms. But normal gym goers fail to extract what works in our training methodology. They do not understand what RPE 9 is. They do not understand what failure is, or progressive overload, or whatever. So when I see people doing circuit trainings at Nordic Wellness, we're doing CrossFit. Karen, you've had the same 16-kilo goblet squat for months on end.
Yeah.
I don't see...
You're exercising.
You're exercising, because I do not see involuntary deceleration on your lifts. You're just not adding effort. So you cannot extract our strength sports world and try to apply it on your own without the guidance of coaches and or hard training buddies from that environment. So that's just one flaw that's in the popularization of CrossFit's methods onto global gyms.
But it's not just about CrossFit. It's like it's this, that people don't get these fundamental things. To me, it's kind of like, I don't understand it sometimes, because when I started training now a bit over 6 years ago, what I do today, when I started that, of course there were many things I did not know and had to learn, and that, but there were a few things I'm like, well, I probably had to train really hard. I probably had to try to beat what I did, again, mostly with weights and reps, but somehow keep challenging myself more, because it's just logic to me. Like, why would my body adapt if I just keep doing the same thing? Still, it surprises me how many people kind of just go and check off their 3 sets of 10 on this, or 4 sets of 8 on this, and also what you said, you've been using the same weight for the goblet squat there, Karen. Is people sometimes have kind of like, I squat with 80 kilos or something. Yeah, that's kind of like, that's my weight, It's kind of like, okay, but would you like to do more? Or like, what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to maintain your current strength? I'm not sure here.
I think part of it comes too from how the marketing changed when fitness changed too. I mean, this was before your day, so I would like to try and give you a bro version of Sweden's fitness history the past 10 years.
Please.
Are you familiar with the name Sid Knutsson?
No.
He was an entrepreneur back in the early 2010s. He more or less invented peanut butter.
Okay.
Or reinvented peanut butter and sold it to fitness. Genius, Stockholm entrepreneur. So the way I understand it, I mean, when I started consuming nutritional supplements, if I looked at the marketing, there were jacked people on the bottles. Like, you had these, insane Mr. Olympia physiques with veins. And of course, I wanted to look like that.
Yeah.
But I was also the outlier. Majority of people did not want to look like that. God, I wish I remember his company's name. But I believe early 2010s, he was the first guy who started selling elegant protein supplement jars, bottles, like white, a little bit of gold in there, healthy looking people. And he had one client, hyper busy guy, wanted to lose weight. He was like, what's the minimal effort way to lose weight. Just he had this one client, he just wanted to eat out of what was, problem solving. Just give me what I need. Like, okay, I put you on a protein supplement and I add you some peanut butter for fats. You can just bring the jar to work and the protein, the powder to work. And you have that as your 80% of your foods, and then you go for dinner and whatever.
Okay.
And prior to that, there was just jacked monsters everywhere.
Yeah.
But when people said, ooh, maybe protein powder and training isn't just for overgrown meatheads on steroids. Ooh, maybe it can be comfortable. Ooh, maybe quark and cottage cheese can taste of vanilla as opposed to tasting crap. Ooh, maybe protein powder and amino acids doesn't have to taste shit. And these comfort, pleasure-seeking individuals help create a product line and a fitness product that just makes more sense for Karen. Like, get in shape quick and without effort.
Yeah.
Anyone with a brain would understand that it's a costly process to build something you've never had.
Yeah.
And it's going to require you to apply some of Ronnie Coleman's, yep, buddy, total disregard for weight and effort to create an adaptation. But few people arrive on that conclusion, man.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, I think of, because you talked about supplements too, that they almost see the training as a supplement too, and then I go and supplement with my workout when I move through these motions, kind of, it's not about the skill. It's not about me becoming better at this and adapting somehow. It's just like I take my 5 grams of creatine and my protein supplement, I take the little workout too, kind of.
And, it's an extreme analogy perhaps, but I understand a huge difference between modern day bodybuilding and golden era bodybuilding was that those guys, 70s, 80s, they loved training. They would get together on a Santa Monica, Venice Beach outdoor gym.
Yeah.
And the powerlifters would hang out with wrestlers, would hang out with acrobats, and they would just be physical together because they loved physical culture. That's kroppskultur, body culture. You do things with your body. Whereas, in our Trembolone-infused supplementation pharmacy way of looking at things, like, yeah, I want to increase my deltoid function or aesthetics. Yeah, let's go to the lab.
Yeah.
As opposed to, let's try and get after a physical process of, what if I, do more handstands? How's that for my shoulder development? What if I do lateral delts and supplement cable and free weights type thing? So they did that back in the day because they just loved the physicality of it.
Yeah.
Whereas as we grow less and less physical, we turn to those solutions.
Yeah. That's a big thing that I try to bring back to people, because a lot of people approach fitness in general as something you kind of have to do. I have to train this and this much. I have to do these exercises. I have to eat like this so I can get this external result that I'm looking for. While I think you and I see it as something we get to do. We're very happy that we get it. It's like I'm grateful. I would be sad if I woke up and I was like, I'm going to hit legs today. It's like, no, the gym was closed today, actually, as I had to train in my basement here. But yeah, it's like, I guess because I didn't see it this way when I started training now. It's kind of what's interesting, a difference between you and me, is that I have this in me, though. I just didn't quite understand it, but that I am this kind of ADHD person. I have the diploma officially. I have this physicality in me, and I did quite a bit of sports when I was younger, but something with my just traumatized self as a young adult, I just didn't end up doing much physical things for a long time. But then when I got into training, the point is that I did not like it when I started, and I think if you're in really poor shape, for who is the training love at first sight? Because you're just so bad at it. You're in poor shape, it feels tough, you get really sore, you're not good at it, But after a point, that's when you start to feel better, you start to look better, you like this. Maybe you notice that, hey, this one exercise, I kind of like seeing myself improving on this, or I'm quite good at this thing, so I like that. Or I'm not very good at this, but it's kind of cool that I notice how I get better at it, you know. And so again, bringing it back to like these bodybuilding, fitness, physique goals, it becomes so much more easy and enjoyable when it's not all that it's about. It's just a side effect of what you do.
One super cool thing about bodybuilding that, this is not my idea. I think I stole it from Chris Williams and Modern Wisdom podcast.
Yeah.
And he said that bodybuilding is the only activity we can engage in which we get a direct glimpse of the future.
Yeah, the pump preview. I saw that.
The pump preview. It's so brilliant. Like,
yeah.
I can't think of many other things where if I do my lateral raises and I kind of see this tiny bulge on the outside of my shoulder, like, ooh, that's the pump preview. This is what Henrik 2025 can look like. Ooh.
Yeah.
And if that idea doesn't entice you, that you are the marble and the sculpture in real time and like in what's to come, I don't know, man. If that can't tick you into exploring something, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, the problem with social media and just how society looks today, it's that way too many people just also observe things, just look at things, Back to the person in the arena and looking from the sidelines. But I don't know. It's like a lot of people, I feel like people have forgotten this kind of go get thing, like the physique. Because now for me, of course, I was a way more depressed than everything person once upon a time. I had like no ambitions. But it's kind of like when I find out and realize this that we're talking about now, that this is on the table, I'm like, how can I not? Like if I know I can go get this, the pump premium, I can build myself into this nice looking, but also highly functional and good feeling, just machine individual. How can I not do that? Like to me, it's like when I lift that stone and found out what was there under, like, yeah, this cannot not to do it anymore. But what was it you said? I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit about diet too, and like kind of just your philosophy and ideas about it. But there was something you said, protein powder and that. Because I remember you asked me about protein when I was on your podcast. And to me, it's a little bit of an unfortunate thing I notice with just more average people or regular people or even just people that, I want to train and build my physique a little bit, but I'm not like a complete nerd with it. But among these people, they often don't realize how important protein is, because the fitness industry has sort of associated just even protein with like, gym bros. That's like protein, that's something for guys like you and me, Because I noticed when I talk to people, I thought it's like common knowledge, some things at least, about the macronutrients and that. But a lot of people really don't realize how important protein is. So tell us a little bit about your diet philosophy. Yeah. And we can get to the protein part too.
The way I phrase it now, in the fewest amount of words possible, would probably be aim for 2 grams of protein per kilo body weight.
Ideal body weight, right?
And older people, a little bit higher. Carbs according to physical exertion, daily activity level. And, 1 gram of fat per kilo body weight for hormonal health, libido, skin, etc. That's very simple. Or I can say that, prioritize protein, 0.5 kilo of fruits and or veggies a day, and adjust your carbs to whatever you're doing. So for me, it would translate to
what are your macros of those 5K calories?
So
it's like 250 grams protein.
Yeah, so now I just came off, it was kind of funny, Now I just came off a 6-week diet. I had a TV gig I wanted to look good for. And so my coach just told me, all right, let's track a normal week now. See how good your intuitive eating is. My best bet is that now for your cutting phase, you should be at about 3,200 calories. And I did my tracking. Guess what my average was over a week?
Like before?
No,
then,
you told me the phase 1, get an estimate of what you're eating right now.
Okay.
And my intuitive eating was
spot
on.
Okay, yeah.
Spot on.
Nice.
And here I am. I've barely been tracking food in my 23-year training journey. And my intuition was that good that what I should have been eating, that's what I was eating. My protein numbers are always above 200 grams a day.
Yeah. Like, how tall are you? How much do you weigh right now? When you're quite lean, then quite ripped.
My morning weight is always fresh after my morning pee and morning poo, and prior to me ingesting any liquids.
That's good to know.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It's the most reliable data. You should also get preferably more days a week weighing yourself, because your weekend weight and midweek weight, Monday weight, those are different things.
Yeah, but also it will fluctuate a bit, right? So it's the trend, the average you want to look at. Yeah.
I'm averaging 91 to 93 kilos at the moment on a height of 189, I say. So I'm just overweight according to BMI, but I definitely have more of an athletic ideal.
Yeah.
Whereas you have the more, dense ideal.
Yeah. No, I was almost hoping that I would be heavier than you today. And now that I've started bulking, you started cutting. I'm a few kilos behind still.
Okay.
But you're tall.
I'm tall, but generally my nutrition, it has never made any sense to me to buy crappy foods. So I always tend to, cook meals that are fairly low ingredient.
I agree.
I cook bulk of, chicken, rice, broccoli. I have my go-to meals of, this meat, this fish, this carb source, this extra fruit or veggie source.
These pastries.
And then we're getting to that. So my base is always, I wouldn't call it diet, it's just good foods.
Yeah.
Archetypically good foods. That don't need a nutrition label.
Yeah.
That's my source. In periods of harder crossfitting, I add my bread, my ice cream, my cookies on top of that.
Yeah.
I would never cook crappy meals, but I do love having my extra pizzas and or restaurant meals. But the base, I probably cook 17 out of 20 meals in a week. And those 3 extra meals, depending on which phase I'm in, it can come from anything.
Yeah.
And if I'm in if I tend to train once or twice a day, shorter sessions, try to separate these abilities. So maybe I go in and just do lifting, or I just do bodybuilding, or I just do conditioning. Or sometimes I can do an upper session in the evening, lower session in the afternoon, whatever. And especially on 2 days, I eat tons of candy and gainer shakes. And I supplement a whole lot of carbs, especially in heavier training blocks. And I can easily consume 500 grams of carbs on a given day, no problem.
Yeah.
That's, I would say, my average is probably around 200 grams of protein, 300 to 500 grams of carbs, and just around 100 grams of fats each day.
Yeah. I something that I think is interesting about nutrition is that it's highly contextual, is this a healthy food or not? It depends on who is having it. And an example I often take is something like fruit juice. Assuming that it's from a good source and everything, for someone like you and me, it's pretty much just like rocket fuel. It's fast carbs that you get some antioxidants, some micronutrients in there. It's just good stuff. While a sedentary, skinny fat diabetic person, they should probably not drink so much fruit juice, for instance. And I find this so funny. I don't know how to explain it really, but sometimes when you've gotten quite deep into the fitness, you have good results and knowledge, but you just know quite well how all this works. Many things that people think are so difficult or they have to be so restricted and things, just to me it just turns out that it's not really that true. That I keep it very simple and low ingredient with my main food as well. And when I'm kind of maintaining body weight or cutting, that's almost all I eat. But now when I'm bulking, I just find that it's tedious. Like I can eat and gain weight from just clean, healthy, whole foods like that, but it gets really difficult at a point. Like I have to spend so much time on buying, preparing, eating. So I just find that, again, just like you said, having that healthy base, like now that I'm going to gain weight, a healthy base, maybe my maintenance calories from these healthier foods, but then I will throw in some things that aren't like textbook health foods, like I've been eating some chocolate, I've had a pizza here and there, and it's like, okay, technically we're going to be all theoretical. If I could get just even more rice and meat or something instead of a pizza, maybe that's like better, but it's very different, is my point. When you're someone that's in good shape, you exercise, you train a lot, you eat mostly a good diet, you sleep well, all these things are on point. A little bit of pizza or chocolate in the mix is a very different thing than if you are this like diabetic, sedentary person that this kind of junk food is like all you eat, right?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest fitness idol all time is a man named Marcus Philly.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
founder of functional bodybuilding.
Yeah. Mm.
And like from him and his teachings, he's a former 12th place finisher at the CrossFit Games, which is the World Championships of CrossFit.
World class.
World class. Like in his prime, he was the best, among the best, right? And I personally loved his physique back in the CrossFit days. Before he had made the jump into more body composition training and eating, that was more suitable next to, running a business, having a family, in his, egoistical, I'm going to go after my CrossFit pursuit. When I see these CrossFit physiques, they're all puffy because of huge muscle bodies, tons of inflammation from constantly overloading training and eating junk food and carb supplements. Like they're pretty much walking inflammation. Whereas, the person...
Literally swole.
They're swole in every sense of the word. Like cellularly swole in this given time, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, the body composition approach, I noticed that when my breakfast is more, 5 eggs, protein shake, some dates, some chocolate, and a coffee, and I tend to do more bodybuilding training. I'm not as, cellularly full in my physique. I'm a bit more chiseled with the, grown man muscular maturity and the striations. Whereas, if I look at my CrossFitter friends, them being, let's say they're 30, give or take a few years. I mean, they're just walking inflammation and puffiness.
Yeah, just a side note, something interesting actually. I noticed when I start bulking and eating, I think it's just eating more in general, but also some of these foods that aren't like the healthiest. Funny that I noticed, like not necessarily inflammation in that way, but I get these like pimples suddenly.
Yeah, also
like
your skin.
I have something here. I noticed I got one on my back and something on the inside of my thigh here.
Thank you for that detail. Yes.
Yeah. I can show you later too.
Okay.
Yeah, when we go swim. No, but there's just something I noticed recently that, man, like...
But skin is like, well, that's the body's biggest organ. Absolutely. You will find examples on your skin of what you're doing to your body.
Yeah.
And if you're that guy who's always ingesting pizza, ice cream, shakes... I don't know, lactic products, whatever, I'm pretty sure you'll see it on your skin, as opposed to you being more of a clean eating, less inflammation and stress imposing methods, training, nutrition, you're gonna see differences for sure, man.
Yeah, and now, of course, I've been bulking, and I also have gone into this kind of like caveman mode, almost like everything is just growing. So it's not as apparent now on camera, I think, but I get a lot of comments on my skin and hair. I would say I have a genetic predisposition towards acne, so that's often how it shows if I start going out or my like cleanest regimen. But what I want to come to is that people comment on that, like my skin and my hair, and I've been asked many times if I have any like routine for that, like any care I do, any products I use, and I find it so funny every time to be like literally nothing. Okay, it's more about what I don't do, that I don't eat a bunch of crap, I don't put a bunch of toxic creams on my skin or hair. And I know for a fact that genetically I have many hairs on my head, but the quality was just way worse before I got into this lifestyle. So I think it's quite true, like the skin, but even the hair. It's like it's not about what you do externally about it. It's like it comes from
I mean, my skin maintenance routine is eat good foods.
Yeah.
Don't do the stupid stuff.
Sweat.
Drink water. Yeah, sweat. I've been using soap and water.
Yeah. And shampoo?
Of course, man.
You do?
Of course.
I haven't used it for years. I take a raw egg yolk every once in a while. That's what I think is even funnier, you know. When people, what products do you use? It's like, I don't even use the products most people use, like shampoo.
Well, you probably strayed even further from the campfire than I
remember
have.
that expression.
From the metaphorical campfire. I still belong to mainstream society and, game that system a bit more than you do.
No, I do that with some things, but I mean, I don't have to tell all the normies that I don't use shampoo immediately, right?
No, it's one of those things that you could, reduce your credibility or have people not give you the chance to listen to you because they're, ruled by insecurity or attachment issues, like we mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. One other thing I wanted to talk to you about. We talked about little Henrik and big Henrik, and then me thinking in a similar way. I've seen also you talk about lately on Instagram, and that I guess you've emphasized this, that we should be playful throughout the entirety of our lives. So, I have more things I want to say, but to talk a little bit about that.
I think it is very sad that people think that we stop playing because we grow old, when I would say that, in the opposite, we get old because we stop playing. I find that in my day when I coach group CrossFit to adults have often developed a very rigid sense of thinking. What is correct technique? What are the points of performance in this movement? Am I doing it right? Anxiety-based. Whereas I still believe we need to also have an explorative process where it's just physical problem solving for the sake of physical happiness, anti-Alzheimer's. We need to play just as people, enjoy some draw. I think we should draw with our bodies. Things should be more created as opposed to only consumed. I think the saddest aspect is that consumer culture is creating passive consumers of soccer. Consuming soccer on television, yes, absolutely. I would also want to look at Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi going at it. They're the best at what they do. But I want to play soccer.
Yeah, isn't that the thing I said earlier about people just observing instead of taking part in something?
I mean, soccer is probably the greatest infinity game ever created, and people are not playing it.
Yeah,
which is very sad.
I did not have this in mind now, but that's a great point. That with people that just watch other people do the sport instead.
Voyeurism.
Yeah, but it's like I get it. If you're like you know, my cousin here and her husband, he loves football, like I would call it, okay, soccer for the Americans. But he has always played, and even now they have as a hobby, they have a team, like Division 3 team. So they play and they're like friendly around that. But then he watches the sport too. I can get that, but only watching it is like it's quite sad. I would like to be a little provocative. I call it cucked even.
Ooh, interesting. But for me, I would say definitely a rebirth happened when I started rollerblading again at age 33. I did not understand what a big part of my life had been missing when I wasn't roller skating. I definitely wanted to go all in on something, and I found out I had, I was a decent strength athlete. Not the best, but I was decent. And so after my snowboarding days, I went pretty hard on the fitness thing. But after a while, the extra hours I spent at the gym came at the expense of me, having the metaphorical snowboarding happen, which was just playing for play's sake. And you have the old Seneca quote, hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them much better when you're older. And as a young kid playing, if it's snowboarding, rollerblading, parkour, whatever, you sort of have this performance mindset. You want to be your best, so you're choosing the solutions where you would excel the most. Whereas me as a rollerblader in my late 30s, I can see the big picture. There's so much value in me having a 15-minute session because it is a brain break. It is a way for me to strap on youthfulness and do something that's highly expressful and that's got joy built into every fiber of my body due to me doing something as a kid, and also just the movement expression that comes with me being on 4 to 8 wheels and jumping, sliding, dancing. And as an adult with a problem-solving brain, I can work out that I can spin left and right, backwards, left and right. That's 3 more ways than I could as a kid. Because I was thinking, I'm Henrik. I spin left. Whereas now I think more, I can spin 4 ways. And I have a left foot and a right foot. Hey, I can use them both. And since I'm right foot dominant, maybe the left foot is good for intensity regulation. I cannot go as hard, as fast, as dangerous if I'm using my weak foot, because it naturally slows me down. So the amount of movement medicine you can create for yourself via play is beyond anything you can do in a structured state. So training, I have too much of an disciplined, orderly, ambitious brain to not go after specific things. But the best antidote to that specific drive and specific desire is to just have something where I'm untouched creatively.
Yeah. Wow. There are so many good things there. Like I just start thinking myself of the importance of play in many ways. Like one thing, I don't remember the exact numbers now, but I just saw something that when someone approaches something as play compared to as like learning a task, I don't remember, but it was like 10 times faster they learned it if they approached it as play. And I think because I think a lot about human beings, individuals, but also cultivating the life experience you want to have. And to me, it's balance again, between what I would see this when we're talking about playfulness and about being serious and hardworking too, is kind of the inner parent versus the inner child sort of thing. That, the life experience you want, it probably isn't just all serious, hard work, think of the risks, calculated like that. Probably want to enjoy and just have some fun too. But it's like, if you just do to have fun, like you're gonna end up some kind of hedonist kind of, So what I mean is like the perfect mix of both really. That you can be serious and disciplined and organized when you have to, but you don't let go, like both for your own just, enjoyment in your experience, you gotta get to play a bit, but even how it can be productive in the pursuit of something more serious. Honestly, when I think about content sometimes when people like my videos the most is when I'm just playing, kind of having fun. Like, yeah, I'm making some serious points I want to, but I'm just expressing myself in a way I think is funny right now. And people like that and find it entertaining, and they listen to the points I do.
Yeah, I mean, probably the snowflake generation of today, or the maddest rainbow proponents, have not played enough of the structured game. And maybe the most, maybe I want to say depressed, but I'm looking for the most rigid, maybe depression prone even people are not exploring the playful state enough. What happens if you listen too much to the parents? You end up in, I went to law school not because I wanted to. I took this job because I should. And they miss out on so many things.
Yes.
Same as people like, no, I think I should make money off of my opinions. No, you probably need to spend more hours in the library, work at the Volvo plant for many more years, paying your dues, paying the man, and so you can be this integrated version of both. It's absolutely, depending on who you are, you definitely need to have both sides.
Yeah,
the parent and the child, if that's what you call it.
Yeah, and I guess it's a different, in this was the parent and the child as more like the playful, youthful version of you, and the more just like, okay, this is kind of what we have to work with. This is reality. These are things we do have to have in mind. But because I think about, I guess I call it like that because a kid is adventurous and want to explore and find things. And the parent, of course, have to like dial them back a little bit, but also the scared overly, like, some parents, it becomes too much, like pretty much like, no, everything is dangerous. You have to go to school and you have to get the job and it's just like all these, the things you have to do, that some of them maybe you do have to do, but that's not all what life is about, pretty much.
Did you see the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, that came out in 2020?
No.
It was a beautiful scene in there because he had the teammate Dennis Rodman, who is this wild defensive player, best rebounder of all time, crazy larger than life persona. He was a superstar, but he was never hogging the ball. He did not need to score. Perfectly unselfish player who was also very much of a maverick, right? He went his own way, and he dated Madonna. He was in WWE wrestling. He did a whole lot of things that a serious athlete perhaps should have been doing. But so they tell a story of Dennis Rodman coming to Detroit Pistons to play, which was like the fiercest defensive team. They were the bad boys of NBA, like late 80s. And Detroit Pistons had like a defensive positions coach who was trying to coach Dennis Rodman, the best defender of all time. Well, a very good defender anyway. Was trying to coach him at the position of defense. And then when the head coach saw this, he went up to the assistant coach like, hey, don't tell Dennis what to do. His instincts are the best we have. Don't put a saddle on a Mustang. Mustangs are made for, they're the wildest of horses. So don't try and tame that.
Yeah.
And I think like it's hard for the parent figures of the world to tame and harness. What do we do with all this intuition? Where does this come from? Which source is this? Have I suppressed my own inner Mustang that much? Am I that domesticated? It's kind of hard to deal with, but like we have it in us, man.
You make me think of something. I guess a thing that I felt like I didn't explain the best earlier when we were here. But I talked about this, how I want to stand up for people that go outside the norm, kind of. And I think one thing is that when people are ambitious and all these things, again, like this guy you told, Dennis, the defender, maybe he doesn't do every decision right because he's a person, but maybe like letting him do his thing will work out the best in the end, kind of, you know. And that's what I can feel sometimes when I now have a bigger following on YouTube and that, and you get some like critique, like you can get just unpleasant people that just say nasty things, but even just input on like, I wish you did more like this, or I don't quite agree with this or something. Sometimes I kind of feel like it's not that I don't want criticism or anything, that I just want an echo chamber, but sometimes I'm kind of like, well, what you're criticizing now, if you want me to kind of suffocate that part of myself, you're going to remove a lot of the magic that happened too. Like, because someone like me, I think I see the big picture well, I get many things right, but I can be a little like rough around the edges sometimes when I express myself. And if you're going to hyper focus on that and try to silence that part of me, you're going to silence a lot of good too, you know. So I don't know exactly where I want to come with that, but that's what I started thinking about with this defender. It's kind of like, you just let him run loose. He got this.
Yeah. You know, 9 times out of 10, we do this right. And yeah, the 10th time we are going to F up.
Yeah.
And depending on how strong and secure you are as a leader of your family, leader of a workplace, you dare give space to people like the Dennis Rodmans, who can ultimately affect an organization a whole lot more than he or she who lacks of certainness enough to maybe go the extra mile. But we're so insecure that we're very threatened by the possible slip-ups. You know, but here's Dennis Rodman as an individual. Yeah, it's hard to stand by him doing all these crazy things, but the guy was part of 2 NBA dynasties, man. He's friends with Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
You know, I actually started thinking about something completely different now, but I thought about before this. So I think we're going to round off soon. Like I could go on with you, but I think we're reaching soon a good length of this episode. I have just a few things that maybe we can keep a bit shorter. But there's one thing, because I just remember something I think I told you a story, and I just remember what you responded to it. So I'm going to try to tell the story just in short for the other people now. That someone, basically, when I worked in a different gym, someone I just started talking to in the sauna, he's my age. Turns out he's like burnt out, he's on sick leave, and he's trying to get his shit together pretty much. And so we talk, and he realized, of course, because I had that kind of background, that, this guy, I can kind of learn from this guy. You know, he has done a lot of the things I need to do, sort of. And, you know, he's a nice guy, and he asked if I want to train someday. I'm like, you know, if you can just tag along, just follow me on my workout, sure, you know. Because I think you know this too, sometimes when you train people and you train yourself on a high level, like I'm happy to train people, but many times when I want to train, I don't want to feel like I'm taking care of someone else. Like every once in a while, but okay. But so we trained once, it went fine, and he kind of wants to hang out more with me. The thing is, I don't want to look at this guy as some like friend, you know. I like him in these situations when I meet him, but I don't want to hang out really. But he keep asking me about things. And then one day he asked me when I am going to go on a walk and I'm close to where he lives. So I'm like, okay, I was going to go on a walk anyway, so let's meet up. He tells me about this relationship problem he has. And, you know, I know that I have good inputs to give on good advice to give, you know. And when I meet someone, I love to talk about these things. So I'm happy to give advice. I can tell that he loves it, you know, he loves it. And then, like, he tries to hang out with me more times. And I'm kind of like, no, I'm busy, man. I can't. And then one day he said, because it was starting to get on my nerves a little, that I like this guy, but he is not understanding the dynamic here, that he wants stuff from me all the time, while I like talking to him, but there's nothing I am getting from him, really. So one time he says, like, I'd really need to talk to you. We had such a good talk last time. And then that's when I said, this is in a chat, that, yeah, look, man, it was nice to talk, but remember that I don't need to talk to you. Okay, and he didn't quite get it, I could see in the chat. But long story short, one time he kept at it with this. And like, okay, I'm going to go on a walk so we can talk on the phone. And I gave him some input on his things. But that's when I had to tell him that, look, man, I had to explain it pretty much like I said, that you're contacting me all the time because you want things from me. But what do I get out of this, you know? And of course, I don't want like relationships to be transactional, that for everything I do for you, I need something back. But of course, it doesn't work with a relationship where like, yeah, I'm giving a bunch of stuff to this guy, I'm helping him a bunch of things, and I should just be happy to get to do that or something. He was quite shocked when I said it that clearly, but then he understood, you know. And I kind of said that if this is going to go on, you're going to have to become a client of mine. When I told you this, what you said once was like, yeah, it's a problem that some people just can't kind of become your equals, you know. I just wanted to, when I tell the story like that, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I remember the story, and I can relate to being in a position where people want more from you than you might want to give them. And that's sort of divine intervention. You know, we do the best we can, and the rest is up to the gods. If you feel an imbalance going on there, you can only have so many charity projects going on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the people who are going to be in your tribe are your equals.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any glory to, you know, if you feel that something is holding you down to a level lower than where you want to be, that's not good for you. I mean, you can... Once again, that's a great, unique selling point about CrossFit is that we can offer you new training friends whom are more like perhaps how you would want to steer your life and have that dictate where you're going, as opposed to your background defining more who you will keep being. I can relate to this guy wanting to level up, and he finds this example in the sauna at the gym. But ultimately, I think you helped him realize that, you know, he needs more from himself and his hero's journey to become more of that person whom a guy like Theodore would want to hang out with. But I just find this process, you know, I'm single as of a few months ago. And a lot of things have happened with women closer to my age that, you know, biological clock is ticking. They want to meet someone.
You take advantage? I'm just kidding.
I understand. I understand. I am the outlier for having this alchemy process of my own. My best bet in creating good relationships, you notice I did not say finding, because I chose what I'm doing chest and heart forward. I do what I want to do, and relationships appear to the left and right as I keep progressing forward. Whereas I see the trend that a lot of women I keep running into, they are having this process where they are dating any and all man to just try to find the best mating option where they are at right now, not taking too many steps forward. So this process of like looking at it, I need to find my social secure bubble first before I can take the, you know, metaphorical leap of faith forward in my own hero's journey. And God, I wish people had more of that, you know, go-getter gene, you know. But it's hard, man.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what comes to mind anyway.
Yeah.
People can always be, you know, looking left and right. Who's next to me? Was sort of, okay, how can I let them steer me forward? I know. I know people like me and people do not like me because I am a walking reminder to people of the work they are not putting in their health. So I come to my job as a teacher. People tell me, I had broccoli yesterday. I didn't ask what you had yesterday. Hey, I took the stairs. Good. I was not asking if you took the elevator.
Yeah.
But some part of people just get, you know, confronted by these things.
Oh, yeah. You know, I find that, you know, it's both fun and kind of annoying sometimes because sometimes I just notice that I trigger the hell out of a person just by existing. It doesn't matter how nice and pleasant and non-judgmental or how little I pry and they're like, are you training? Are you, you know, I can just sense it from an entire person, you know. I start thinking about so many examples of that. When I just run into someone I know they ask me something about my training and stuff that I'm not thinking about right then. They're like, but it's part of my work too. So I just respond and kind of, yeah, well, and you, how are you doing? I'm just asking, how are you doing? They're like, yeah, it's been a lot with the kids now, so I don't get the chance to go to the gym. I'm like, I wasn't asking about that. I'm just asking, how are you doing? So that wasn't an example of someone that was triggered, but it's just kind of funny, that when you are this, just your pure existence will be a reminder to people of, like you said, the work they aren't doing. Then they deal with it in different ways. But yeah, I think, now I got, when you went on a little bit, this like go-getter attitude, that it's not so much that this next person will be the solution, whether that's like a new bro that knows a lot or in the romantic relationship. It's like, no, I'm the solution. And then whatever appears is great, Like, I think we can take direct approaches. Like you said, if you want more people that are into a healthy training-based lifestyle, maybe start CrossFit, maybe take that step, Maybe if you want to find a romantic partner, maybe put yourself in positions where you will at least meet some girl or something. But I think a lot in relationships, when you're also actually in a relationship, I think many people often are like, how do I act to get them to be more like this or not? Or how do I act so that it works out? But the question should really be, like, of course there's a compromise in a relationship, but it's more like, I have to act with integrity and in alignment with my values. And then if this person stays around or not, it's no right or wrong. It's what I do is right. Then whatever result I get, that was right because I acted according to my values, right?
I thought of a story. We met Theo when I had just moved to Stockholm.
Yeah.
And I remember an interaction I had on Instagram with the guy I've been chatting on and off for a few years. And, I've been attending pro wrestling shows since forever. It's my guilty pleasure. No, it's not even guilty. It's just good.
Just a pleasure.
Just a pleasure. Just a pleasure.
Yeah.
And this guy writes to me and says, hey, now that you're in Stockholm, we can attend the pro wrestling shows here. I've been dying to go see them. I've been dying to have friends I can go to wrestling with. And I write back to him, maybe that was not nice. Like, hey, if you want to find friends to go to wrestling with, guess where you can find them? At a wrestling show. And he's like, oh, thanks for that, life coach. And he unfriended me. And okay, maybe I lost a wrestling friend, but at least I gained someone who could never be my equal. Yeah,
exactly. That's like, maybe I lost. It's like you should be able to say things like that without like losing someone. To me, that's something I like about you, that I feel like, oh, Henrik won't just like, I don't know, kiss my ass and try to make me as comfortable all the time. Like, I actually start thinking about something that it wasn't a big disagreement, but it was funny. I even written it down here. Do you remember when I was telling another story on your podcast? And it doesn't matter what the story was about. I was just describing a person in a gym, and that she was wearing a fanny pack, so I know that she's like a Karen, pretty much, like that she follows the rules. We were talking in Swedish. And I remember how Henrik was like, nej, Theo, like, you can't say that. Like, he just disagreed immediately. I found it so funny, Then the funny part was also that when you started thinking back that you had been wearing a fanny pack, it's like, oh, I guess I was quite serious about following the rules then or something. He said, it was just kind of funny moment. And it's not a big thing, but I like that someone is more like, instead of like being a little mini triggered and sitting like, what did he just say? Just be like, nay, Theo, that you just go like that. I prefer that so much,
But those are the two different approaches when it comes to dating. You can either go sniper style or, shotgun style. If you work on, figuring out what is uniquely you, and whatever goes outside the scope of your sniper rifle, it will not enter there. Lesser chance of you striking connection with someone, but when you do, you're in for the long game often. Whereas if you connect with people over generalities, oh, you like coffee too. Wow. Oh, you have a Netflix subscription. Wow, we have that in common. where's the magic? Where's the madness? I do not believe in generalities being, the thing that gives us the most meaning and or satisfaction from life. We need that, absolutely, but dare to be your own goofball too. That's where you get to know people.
Yes, and that's again why I call this podcast Human Beings, because I've noticed that, of course, you and I get along, we have interests, we could go train together, we're going to go for a swim in the lake after, like we have many things like that, but people that I just like and get along with and can have interesting conversations with, honestly, is just anyone that dares to be themselves, like no matter how cliche that sounds. So I'm just always so curious when I feel like, this person is not just saying what they're supposed to and what they think they should or whatever they're, even if they're not like someone I'm going to be best friends with and hang out with, that kind of interaction, I always get so much more out of, When someone isn't trying to please me, if they think something I do is strange, they say that, or, I find it so much more interesting.
For sure, man. For sure.
So we're going to round off here, but there was one thing I guess I wanted to ask you about because I'm personally curious to know the answer. Spirituality. I don't like to say spirituality and religion because myself, I would say I'm someone with a strong belief in God. That's like the word I like to use, but I could say something else too, really. But I don't consider myself a religious person whatsoever. But I just want to know where you stand there, your views, if you have any sort of spiritual beliefs.
From an agency standpoint, I always had a hard time subscribing to any religion because I wanted to feel like I was, the one commanding the ship and not just being a puppet in a bigger game. However...
What if you're both?
What if I'm both?
Yeah.
But I don't think we can understand the world by science and logic on its own. Absolutely. I subscribe to the, metaphorical idea of it there being gods and angels as explanations to those things, the mystery we do not understand. A person should have a spiritual practice for sure. And I think it was in many aspects a mistake by modern Sweden to, de-establish a state religion without finding a suitable replacement for spirituality, or common spirituality definitely has a place for us. We met up in the church. We said our prayers. We had humility together. We bonded over, the wine and the cookie and the teachings. And I was allowed to educate your neighbor's kids if they were misbehaving. We shared a common scripture. I think we need some sort of that. And it's called, spirituality and faith. It's not called science, man. You don't have to understand everything. You just have to understand that there is a mystery to it.
Yeah. I think because you said that everyone should have a spiritual practice, kind of. And what is a spiritual practice? I find it very interesting, and I realize that anything you just think of as being spiritual is a spiritual practice. Like even when I decide that, I'm going to wash my, plates here, clean up here in my kitchen without any podcast or any sound or anything. I'm just going to do that silently for myself, because I feel like sometimes I just distract myself too much with stuff like that, To me, that's a spiritual practice. I'm being present with myself and this little task I had to do instead of just like drowning out my consciousness, really. And I think that's the cool thing, that spirituality, it doesn't have to be, of course it can be related to church and religion and that, but it can be pretty much whatever you want it to be. And someone said it, I don't remember who I heard say it recently, but I agree, that some of the most spiritual people there are, that you won't hear them say that they're spiritual or talk about God or divine things or whatever. They're just very present people. And to me, that's a big thing too. Like being present, being aware, Not just running on your little human autopilot here.
Yeah. I mean, that's maybe mindfulness in its essence.
Presence. Yeah. And we're coming towards an end, but yeah, I guess what I like with Henrik that made him really perfect for this kind of podcast is, to me, since I got to know you, you're very much your own person. Like the way you express yourself, I always like that when I can just clearly, because sometimes someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're just some kind of sheep just following the herd, but I mean that I like when I see someone and they have their distinct way of just being, you know, like I get interested immediately, and I think that's cool about you. And I guess before we round off, is there anything you'd like to bring up or ask me even, if there's something you feel like we didn't touch on?
You know, this is typically my way of trying to finish out my own podcast. So it's kind of nice to have this diverted back to me.
Sure.
But I can appreciate this dialogue being you giving space for rants to happen. Maybe even those rants are an example of spirituality, where, you know, the flow of the conversation, the synergy of your experiences and mine, and whatever formula you have prepared via this specific conversation, just creates for these, you know, attempts at us as poets, artists, and living human beings expressing life, you know, beyond the 140 symbols of Twitter. Like, that is the beauty of this format, that we can actually maybe touch God, maybe scrape the higher forces somehow by just being engaged in the process without anxiously depending on the outcome. And like having the courage to, you know, stay in this process of, you know, having our alchemy, having our conversations, not knowing but still giving it a go, you know?
Yes. You know, I've thought about it, you know, what is the meaning of life kind of thing? And I realized that maybe life is the meaning, you know. And so a thing like spirituality and trying to find out who you are and why we're here and that, I think the beauty of it is that I think it's an infinite journey, that you can always get further, but you can never get to the end. And so, yeah, that's really part of it. You and I are on our individual journeys like this, and here our journeys kind of cross and we interact.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it's funny, you know, you never know with the internet what type of reach there is. I mean, I decided to leave Stockholm because I was thinking about the future and the impact I wanted to have, and how thinking in terms of years is insufficient as to thinking in decades. So I relocated back to Gothenburg. So if you're ever in Gothenburg, you'll find me at Weinhallen CrossFit, best functional training gym in Gothenburg. You'll even find me at, you know, Park Lane nightclub on Götaplatsen Avenyn. If you want to see Sweden's most colorful roller skater, maybe oldest.
Most jacked.
Most jacked.
I gotta give you that. You have a very good physique.
I'm a swoller blader.
That's nice. I like that. There's just a short thing about the CrossFitters. Something that sticks out to me is like super jacked abs, and often the upper back and trap area too. And I guess the upper back trap area, it's from all the Olympic stuff, right? But the abs, what does that come from? Is it also there's a huge amount of volume involving the core, or?
There are two theories, I would say. Huge amount of core volume through, you know, compound lifts under heavy fatigue. But also the existence of ab exercises beyond their ordinary range of motion via kipping gymnastics, GHD sit-ups, where we go beyond the vertical line, you know. Any, you know, ring muscle up, toes to bar, kipping pull-up even. Or imagine even the thousands of burpees done over a year, where we slightly arch up to get into a better takeoff jumping position, coupled with, deadlifts and power cleans under fatigue, just gives us thick trunks. And also, we have to look at the natural selection. I mean, if you are that V-taper guy, you are probably, by your genetic frame, a bit too weak to really be good at CrossFit in the higher levels where genetic talent is one thing. So I think you'll see a lot of, people build like tree trunks excelling in the sport of CrossFit, whereas, the V-tapered, beautiful sculpture guy would do better in, I don't know, alpine ski jumping or swimming, just due to physics.
Yeah. And one other thing, I remember I asked you, but you haven't directly trained the neck at all, right? Or?
No, I have...
Because you have pretty big neck.
I do have a big neck, my man. And that probably comes from, as a kid training with poor technique, maybe. Nah, but I just...
What did you use your neck for that you were not supposed to, is what I'm wondering when you say that. Like sit up somehow.
I mean, I did... I always did shrugs as a kid.
Yeah, but it's the front of the neck I'm thinking of specifically, because the back, I buy that, especially with all these deadlift-like movements, you hit it some, but the front there. Because I've been training neck twice per week very seriously for over a year now, and now I feel like I've got caught up with you pretty much. So I'm like, what did he do?
What did I do? I don't know, man. Trash talking.
All the trash talking. No, sometimes I even think about the CrossFit thing, that you just do so much that you're just like...
Yeah, but imagine I've been doing Olympic lifting on and off since 2011, 2012.
So I graduated from high school 2011.
Yeah, so maybe there's some time under tension explanation.
Yeah. Sure.
It's next level.
Next level. Yeah, I put that funny joke. Something I haven't done as much lately is all the rhyming. When I used to say, when I'm in line with the divine, I rhyme all the time and all that stuff, Maybe it was just a phase. But I had a time where I couldn't help but rhyme almost, because I had done it so much. And then when I felt really good, anything I wanted to say came out in a rhyme.
I think it's just more memorable. And that's just us as fitness poets. I mean, I have my languages. I have my strength sports. This becomes my canvas, right?
Do you have a good rhyme for us here at the end?
Only one life that soon is past. Only what is done with love will last.
Love that. I like that. Let's end here. So we can find you at Weinhallen CrossFit?
Weinhallen CrossFit in the heart of Majorna, Gothenburg. Sort of like the Södermalm hipster area of Gothenburg, where naive people come to share ideas. But some of us come for the best strength and conditioning in all of Gothenburg.
Okay, I see. And apart from the physical location, where can we find you on the interwebs?
Biggest platform is, of course, Instagram, where you can find me on the handle at Henrik Valis, and the podcast, which will be on at Fitness Philosophy Floskler. Of course, then the gym has its own CrossFit account at Weinhallen CrossFit. I run my own podcast, which is done on Spotify is probably the best platform, or Apple Podcasts, I think.
Have you done any episodes in English there?
I did. I had this idea that just creativity for creativity's sake, and also me practicing being uncomfortable and developing the English skill set. I had my rhyming plan for season 4 turn into season 4.5 with bilingual, bi-weekly podcast episodes, going back to back, like we say in CrossFit, every other week, Swedish and English episodes. So I did that. And, I got to speak with some great minds in English. I had Marcus Philly, my all-time fitness hero, on. I had a German guy who was just loves the traveling rings, sort of outdoor gym thing you can do. One of the few places in the world. And next week I'm dropping an episode with a Brit expat living in Sweden. So yeah, I mean, English language opens up a new world.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's like I started doing content in Swedish quite fast from the fasting I did also. I got like an international following. I just realized that. Like, why don't I reach pretty much the entire world instead of just Swedes? Then I feel silly when I have someone like you, and we will immediately when we're done, we'll go back to Swedish, but it is what it is.
I mean, ultimately, I think if we want to move further in life, we have to beat imposter syndrome. And the best way to do that is by, practice. You go after it, right? The more people I speak with, regardless of how successful they are, how good they are at what they do, I mean, it's crazy. We all share having imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I've heard a good one. I think it's a Hormozy guy. I said that everyone feels that because when you start something, you literally are like an imposter. That you aren't this. Like if you start a podcast, for instance, you've never done something like that. Well, you aren't a podcaster yet. You're just starting, so you feel a bit like, am I good? Am I good enough? Am I getting this right? You have that's part of any process really that you have to feel. Like an imposter first.
But I think it's also a Hormozy thing that the number one thing you should do for confidence is just having undeniable proof that you can do something. I'm 55 episodes into my podcast. Yeah. It's pretty hard to hate on that.
Yeah.
The guy who was consistently producing episodes without failure every week or every other week according to the plan for 2 years straight.
Yeah. And I think that's what confidence is, that you have proof enough that you just don't have any doubts because it's so clear that, I'm good at this or this works or I'm getting the result I want or whatever. Because I think sometimes some people confuse like confidence with, for instance, like self-esteem or something, because it's not the same. You can hate yourself, but have lots of proof that you're really good at something also.
I mean, Theodore, there are so many more conversations we can have.
Oh, yeah.
When you speak, popcorn is popping in my brain, and I can just think of possible rabbit holes for us to, keep deep diving into. And that's why it's good that we have the mediums of language and training, because so we can do all this. If we were to just consume things and never once trying to decipher whatever, code is being written, I would fear for our humanity.
100%. Yeah. Yes. And you know what I think about sometimes when you say that also is about social media again, that, not everyone has to be like, an influencer or content creator or whatever, but even the way people use these. I wish, again, human beings and individuality and the uniqueness of a person and what they're about. I wish people would share something more than, look at our nice dinner. Look at it, here we are, we're out, me and my girlfriend or the family. It's like, some of that, there's nothing wrong with just sharing a little picture. But I would like to see, what are you up to in your free time? What's this project? What's this little, you're into knitting. Well, show me the thing you knitted. I'm curious just to see what people are into. So this like both actually creating, like you said, or I would also say just doing over just observing and consuming. That's something I'd love to see. I took that as an example when I did this like solo podcast. I've done a few episodes for like Patreon. Talked about a girl I know that in many ways, like not a boring girl, but I just mean a typical, when you just look at, just a girl. But the way she expresses herself and what she shares on Instagram just makes it, I just really like it because it's so obviously her. Like just the things she's into, which sometimes is, look, her little poodle dog that she loves, but also, we did this, we went for a little run or whatever it is. And you see a person actually sharing and doing things going on, not just this fronting again that I see from most people, that they are on social media mostly to look at other things and then just kind of display certain things.
And you don't have to be on social media either.
No, you don't have to, absolutely. But I'm saying that even I would love to see, even people that are not going to sit here and do a podcast and stuff, I would love to see people change the way they use social media if they're going to use it.
Sure. But going to battle with the algorithms, no easy fight, man. You're going to end up losing 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's like even just you're a person that has your friends, your circle on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. Just share something like real, something you do. Come on. I've seen enough plates of food now. It's like, what are you up to, really?
I hear you. But let's go for that cold plunge.
Yes, let's do that. So, yeah, we know where we can find you. No, thanks, Henrik. It was a great conversation. I feel like you, when you went on longer rants, sometimes I was like, oh, there's so many rabbit holes I could go down here. But I loved it. It was great, man. So thank you. And I'll love to have you back in the future. And we'll continue with those other things.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the talk and appreciate you setting an example and being self-sovereign in how you live your life and ultimately teaching others how to, develop more agency and inner authority in our processes of how to better take care of ourselves and our planet.
100%. Back at you, man. Okay. Thank you for this one. Peace, guys.